Hello, and welcome to another episode of Glorious Life on Wheels. Today is the continuation of a series I've been doing on senior nomads who have found a way to stretch their Social Security checks by living several months out of the year on BLM land in the desert in Arizona. The interview I'm bringing to you today is very compelling. It's about a woman in her 60s who always felt like she didn't belong or was an outsider, but she didn't really quite understand why. And late in life, after becoming a nomad, I believe it was after she became a nomad, that she discovered that she actually is on the autism spectrum. And it answers so many questions for her. Also found an accepting community, I guess you could say her tribe, among other nomads, as well as by online groups, including HOWA, Home on Wheels Alliance, and the virtual caravans that they sponsor, among other online groups. In this video, you're going to hear from Serenity, how she basically did a reset of her life in her 60s, and she's going to tell you in her own words how that happened. I am going to do a follow-up video, so stay tuned, and I will share with you, or Serenity will share with you, how she has her camp set up, which differs from the video that I did on Becky. And if you haven't seen that one, go back and check it out. Also, Serenity did something really unique in how she insulated her van. And I'm telling you, it made a world of difference, because being inside of her van, it really controlled the temperature in her van. But that's coming in the next video, so stay tuned. Meanwhile, let's go check out Serenity and hear her story, shall we? Hello, Serenity. How are you doing?
I'm great. It's great to be here in Quartzsite.
It's a beautiful day. It really is. Now, you are here for the duration for the entire winter.
Yes.
And you are a full-time nomad.
Yes, that's correct.
Now, I know a little bit about your background and your work history, but can you share with my viewers what your career was?
I grew up on Cape Cod and went to nursing school and was a nurse for 35 years, and have also studied acupuncture and Chinese herbal medicine, and had a practice in Arizona for 10.
Now, you were saying that a lot of health issues and some of the demands of the job forced you to retire from nursing, and now you decided that you wanted to become a nomad. So what were the factors that influenced your decision to become a nomad and live in the extended ProMaster?
Well, having a sticks and bricks house became overwhelming as a single person, because there was just me trying to manage working and doing everything that had to go along with it, owning a house. And it became too much, and then COVID hit and it really became too much.
Right.
So I decided that I had always been interested in tiny houses, and I couldn't find someone to build me what I wanted for a tiny house, which involved, planning for aging. I wanted a tiny house that had no loft.
Right.
So that automatically meant it was bigger and wider than standard.
Right.
And I wanted certain things, you don't put outlets down by the floor as you get older. Why not have them 2 feet off the floor where you can reach them without having the propensity for falling down?
So what brought you from that to going to the van?
Well, I looked into the finances and trying to find someone who would build me an affordable tiny house that had those components in it that I wanted. And I couldn't find one. I couldn't finance one. So I said, well, then I maybe should look into getting an RV or a van or doing something. But I knew if I got a van that I could orchestrate the building it out myself.
Right.
And I could have what I wanted in it.
Okay. So, and we're not going to do a tour of your van, but we are going to look at some of the components because you've used some of the top of the line, best of the best components. And we're going to look at that a little later. But how have you found living as a nomad is after being in a home for so long?
I find nomad living great. It suits me, and I'm healthier now than I was when I was working and living in house.
So is this something you anticipate doing for a number of years, or do you have an exit plan? What is your plan?
I hope to be doing this for as long as possible. When it's no longer possible, then I do have an exit plan that I have to either find someplace stationary in a park to spend my time and then in a community, or I will perhaps build out something like a 40-foot schoolie so that I could actually have handicap accessibility.
Now, how long have you actually been living full-time in the ProMaster?
This is the beginning of my 3rd year.
Basically, you started your life over at 62.
That's correct.
Now, you're telling me that that's when you also started taking your Social Security. So right now, your primary source of income is Social Security.
Social Security.
And as most people, I'm guessing that your budget depends on how much travel you do?
Yes, in some respects, yeah.
Okay.
So coming to Quartzsite for the winter is a money-saving option.
Okay.
At least this year.
Now, you were telling me also that you're an introvert. And this lifestyle has made you come out of that somewhat. Can you explain that?
Well, I'm an introvert, but when you're in a house, you find things to do in the house, and the house takes up a lot of time and energy, so that unless you go outside of the house, you don't ever meet anyone.
Right.
Here, my house is outside in a community. I spend a fair amount of time outside in the fresh air, and as people are going by, you have interactions with them that you wouldn't have in a typical sticks and bricks kind of neighborhood.
So you find that you're meeting more people here?
I've met more people, I have more connections, and I have online connections that I utilize as well.
Now, you're even camping with people here?
Yes.
And
yes.
someone that you met from, was it last year?
Someone I met last year. We have, just this year decided to camp together.
Okay.
And see how that goes. A lot of the people I have met have been through the Home on Wheels Alliance. People who have virtual caravans that take place on Zoom, and also in-person caravans that happen in the fall season before the RTR and the WRTR, which are the Rubber Tramp Rendezvous.
Also shared that you are on the autism spectrum, and that sometimes you have had problems being a bit reactive or having, being able to really focus on something. And you are part of a group online that you said has really been beneficial to you. Can you share a little bit about that group?
Sure. They're a group out of Austin, Texas that is a Soto Zen practice, Zendo, and they are, it's called Appamata, and we have morning meditation either at 4:30 in the summertime or 5:30 in the morning in the wintertime because of the time change. And we meditate together, and then we have small conversations. They concentrate on forming relationships with the people who participate.
So what is the cost for this?
The cost for it is based on donation.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And you've been doing this for how long?
Really, I started doing it last winter.
Okay.
Two winters ago when I first came to Quartzsite.
And it's really had a calming effect on your life from what you're telling me.
It is. It has had a profound effect because I am able to be much more in the moment and more mindful and less reactive and less the product of my, how do I want to say this?
Well, your experiences.
My experiences, my conditioning.
Right.
That you sort of you grow up with, and, you have whatever experiences you have, and you have a way of doing things, and this lets you examine those processes and
it sounds like
them.
From what you were saying, it also sounds like it helped you not to be so hard on yourself or to accept a lot of the negativity that had come your way.
Yes, well, my diagnosis as being on the spectrum was a late diagnosis. I was 59 when I found out, and the only reason I found out is because I had volunteered to do this study that looked at women and aging when they wanted people with autism and people without autism.
Okay.
And I thought I was volunteering for the people without autism.
For the
segment.
typical side, yeah. Wow, what a blessing that turned out to be.
Yes, and after I had that experience, they said, we can't make a diagnosis for you, but, if you want to pursue it, these are the people that you would go and see and find someone. So I did find a doctor in Tucson and, paid money out of my own pocket to have the evaluation done, and, was formally diagnosed as being on the spectrum.
So that must have answered a lot of questions for you.
It certainly did. It certainly did.
Think of all the people who never get the answers and are always feeling like outsiders, but they don't know why.
Exactly. Exactly.
Well, thank you so much for sharing some of this personal, from the heart type of information. And good luck in what you're doing. I know you shared with me some things that you're going to be pursuing, but maybe we'll talk about those at another time in another interview.
Sure.
But you know what? Let's go ahead and look at your setup. And we're not going to do a tour of your van, but we'll look at some of the fabulous things you have in there. And we'll look at the setup that you have that's going to carry you through the rest of this season.